This file is inside the School Loop locker, so you're going to want to go into the locker and download it. And the purpose of this assignment is to just teach you some more advanced techniques on how to draw shapes in Illustrator. Since you're working with a very symmetrical design for your mandalas, you want to find shortcuts and ways that will allow you to work a little bit quickly instead of having to hand draw every single thing all the way around the mandala. So the first one we're going to work on is this one, which is the rotation tool. You guys have already actually practiced this with the color wheel, but I want to teach you how to make some unique shapes and then rotate them around. We're going to work in layer 2, and we're going to start off by using an ellipse. And you'll notice that I've told you that it's going to be a 1/2 inch by 1/2 inch. So go ahead and set your ellipse to 0.5 by 0.5. You can fill this in color if you want to, but what we want to try to do is get this pretty point on our circle. So we're going to take the direct selection tool, which allows us to mess with the anchor point. You might remember this from the penguin assignment. And when I click on this individual anchor point and I go under properties, it'll ask me if I want to convert it. If you have 2017, it's probably going to pop up at the top. And then you can take that anchor point and with the shift key, hold it down and get it to look like a teardrop. That teardrop has to go right down the middle, and that way it's aligned perfectly with the intersection. Using the rotation tool, hold the Alt key, click right down the center, and we can set this to 30 degrees. If we wanted to make it closer, we could try 20. You just want to avoid overlapping for this. There might be a time when you actually do want to overlap your shapes. So maybe you do keep them closer together in degrees. And you can create this really cool overlap pattern that way. But for this assignment, we're going to stick to 30 degrees. So I'm going to click here, make sure it says 30, copy, and then Command D all the way around. So that's an easy way to create a very symmetrical round pattern on your mandala. The second technique is using the transform each technique. You're going to start off with an ellipse again, but instead of a 1/2 inch, we're going to do an inch. We're going to place this right here on top of the sample. I'm going to go ahead and fill this in with no outline. And now I can sit here and copy these and I can paste them individually, but the chances of me getting the measurements exact are going to be off and it's going to cause me more headache. So if I select my object and I go to Object, Transform, Transform Each, I'm going to set it to go across 1.25 inches. This is 1 inch wide. Plus I need to give myself an additional 1/4 space to bring it across. So I'm going to type in 1.25 for 1 1/4. I can preview, make sure it's not overlapping, and then copy, and then Command D 2 more times. So it's just a fast way to copy some shapes going straight. The third example is scale. Let's start off with a 3 inch by 3 inch circle. We want to turn our fill off so that we can see what's going on in the inside. You're going to go up to Object, Transform, and you're going to scale. I'm going to scale every 20%. So it starts off at 100, it's going to go to 80, and then I'm going to hit copy. I'm going to then go again, scale, and I'm going to go down 20%, so that would be 60. Copy. You have to hit copy or it doesn't actually paste the new copy onto the artboard. Scale, last one, I'm going to go down to 40%. And I'm going to hit copy. So now you've created a bullseye style or design, and each one has gone down 20%. And you could make these even less than 20% if you wanted them to be closer together. But that's a good way to create a circle or a square in different scaled measurements and have them look like they're part of the same object. Okay, the fourth one. This is just reflecting. It's very simple. So it looks like I've given you a triangle. It happened to be in the guides. So let's go ahead and unlock our guide layer. And we're going to click on this triangle. All you're going to do is you're going to reflect it. So you have to go to Object, Transform, Reflect. And notice it only reflected this one, but I don't have the remainder, the original on the top. That's because before I did that, I should have hit Command C, Command F. And so there is a copy sitting right on the top. I'm going to Object, Transform, Reflect, and I'm going to reflect horizontally since I want it to go from top to bottom, and I'm going to copy. Now, as you drag your copy down, hold your Shift key so that your line alignment is perfect. It's going to be right down the middle. Okay, I saved. Okay, go ahead and lock your guide layer and go back to layer 2. I saved one of the hardest ones till the end. This is your pen tool. The pen tool is something that we're going to work a lot more in, but this is just your basic tutorial on how to use a pen tool. You guys have the curvature tool, which is new to 2017 and newer in Illustrator, and this is going to save you so much time. This never used to exist in Illustrator. So we're going to start off though with the regular pen tool. The trick to the pen tool is that you only click where you think you would actually be bending your anchor point. And you'll notice that as I'm doing this, I'm getting a black fill. You need to make sure that your fill is turned off and your outline is on. That's very important. And I'm clicking where I'm going to be ending up bending my bar. It takes some concentration and it takes some practice, serious practice. These two have to connect at the end. And now the magical tool, the curvature tool. You can come in here and actually bend your lines. This never used to exist and people would have to do this by hand. Command Z to undo. People complained about it so much that they actually created this tool just for that reason. Bend it out. Okay, so I have the general shape of my pear. Notice I avoided this part right here. That will come later. I'm going to add that right now, actually. So I'm going to go ahead and come in here. I'm just trying to be as accurate as I can. Don't get too exaggerated with this curve. Okay. Now, this little tail right here, if you want to turn this off, you have to hit escape. Once you hit escape, you've deselected it. You don't want to keep it going, because if you keep it going, then it will follow you, and you'll end up drawing lines. So go ahead and hit escape on the keyboard. We're going to go back to using our regular pen tool. I'm going to come in here. The more comfortable you get with the pen tool, the less anchor points you actually have to use. That's what these little dots are called, anchor points. So I'm going to extend out. I can bend this just a little bit so it looks a little bit more natural. Okay. And notice I came over to my selection tool. That's because I'm deselecting my object. And now I'm going to start on the leaf. The leaf is very detailed. If you feel confident using the pen tool, you can try to capture all the little points. I would go up, in, up, in, up, in, up, in, up, in. And I'm just going to keep going all the way around until I get to where I'm happy. If you don't go over every single crease, don't worry. It just depends on how detailed you want to get. This one goes the opposite direction, so I'm going to head out and then in, out and then in. If you mess up, just hit Command Z. I'm getting kind of sloppy here because I'm trying to rush. If you're going to do this, just take your time. Don't rush this, because once it's done, it's going to look really pretty. And I might just finish this off here, finish this off here. These 2 points have to meet if you're going to fill this in color later. And then I'm going to bend this. You can come out and bend these if you want. Try not to get too exaggerated. Just a little bit of a curve is good. Okay, so I have officially outlined all the parts of the pear. And I did them in that order for a reason, because now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to be able to fill these in. So I'm going to select this, hit I for eyedropper. So now I have my pear color. I'm going to select my stem, grab my eyedropper, I, color my stem. Actually, I'm going to bring this forward a little bit if it works. Yes. And then I'm actually going to decrease, I'm going to take the stroke off of this because I don't want this to be on, but let me color my leaf first. So I'm going to color the leaf. I'm going to try to capture a lighter color. And then if you want to, before you do that, you can come in here with your pen tool and create the line. So you're going to click, grab the eyedropper, and then I wouldn't use black for the outline. I would actually use the color that I gave you over here. And you can curve this a little bit so it looks rounder. Okay. Once you have that, if you wanted to, you could select this and group it together and just test it out by itself, and you have yourself a nice pretty pear, just like the one on the other side. Okay, now that you finished the assignment, you're going to file Save As. We're going to call this last name, first name, Advanced Shapes. We're going to save it to the desktop and hit Save. Okay, and then go ahead and turn this in on Schooloop.